I do this video from time to time. I've done it twice now. This will be 3 times. Every great once in a while. And while I could just download my video and re-upload it as if it was new, I like to do a Bill O'Reilly every now and then. Do it live. So, the cycles of government. If you just Google that word, cycles of government, you'll see Wikipedia. Then there's a second one. But even from Wikipedia, it talks about the 3 basic forms of government. And then within those basic forms of governments, there's some kind of offshoots that always spring up. And then it goes to the next basic form of government with those 3 offshoots, etc. And according to Polybius, this goes way back to Greek ancient times as well, who has the most fully developed version of the cycle. It rotates through the 3 basic forms of government: democracy, aristocracy, and monarchy, and then the 3 degenerate forms of each of these governments, which is an ochlocracy, an oligarchy, and then a tyranny. Originally, society is in an anarchy, but the strongest figure emerges and sets up a monarchy. The monarch's descendants, who because of their family's power, become despots, and the monarchy degenerates into tyranny. Because of the excesses of the ruler, the tyranny is overthrown by the leading citizens of the state, who set up an aristocracy. They too quickly forget about virtue, and the state becomes an oligarchy. These oligarchs are overthrown by the people who set up the democracy. Democracy soon becomes corrupt and degenerates into mob rule, beginning the cycle anew. Plato and Aristotle have somewhat different beliefs. Plato only sees 5 forms of government. Aristotle believes the cycle begins with monarchy and ends in anarchy, but that it does not start anew. He also refers to a democracy as the degenerate form of rule by the many, and calls the virtuous form politia, which is often translated as constitutional democracy. Machiavelli, writing during the Renaissance, appears to have developed Polybius' version of the cycle. His adoption of anacyclosis, which is cyclosis is like cycle, can be seen. So it's anacycle, can be seen in Book 1, Chapter 2 of the Discourses in Livy, or on Livy. All of the philosophers believe that this cycle was harmful, or not the cycle, but the cycling over and over the same stuff is harmful. The transitions would often be accompanied by violence and turmoil. Where's the world at today? And where's the United States heading? And a good part of the cycle would be spent with the degenerate forms of government. And again, those degenerate ones were ochlocracy, oligarchy, and tyranny. That's where we would spend most of our time, in a democracy in this case, because that's the cycle we're in. So he says Aristotle gave a number of options as to how the cycle could be halted or slowed. And here's several things, and I'll stop right there. 1. Even the most minor changes to basic laws and constitutions must be opposed, because over time the small changes will add up to a complete transformation. Where's America at in that level, on that number 1? Oh, the whole damn thing's been rewritten. Exactly. Number 2. In aristocracies and democracies, the tenure of rulers must be kept very short to prevent them from becoming despots. 3. External threats, real or imagined, preserve internal peace. The 3 government basic systems can be blended into one, taking the best elements of each. Next one. If any one individual gains too much power, be it political, monetary, or military, he should be banished from the polis, or the polls. So if they have too much power, whether that's political, monetarily, or militarily, they've got to be banished from the polls. Interesting. Judges and magistrates must never accept money to make decisions. What? Nowadays? No, that doesn't happen. No, next, hurry up, go to the next one. The middle class must be large. Can't have the 1%ers and the 10%ers and then the rest of us 90%ers. Not going to work. But got to have a very large middle class. And last but not least, most important to Aristotle in preserving a constitution is education. If all the citizens are aware of law, first and foremost, aware of law, history, and the Constitution, they will endeavor to maintain a good government. There's more to that, but under the fair use copyright laws, that's all I'm going to read. There's a whole lot more, but that's the gist of it. That's the basic thing you need to hear right now. It is incredible, going back to Aristotle's time, how many democracies, how many monarchies, how many oligarchies, how many tyrannies have been around the earth. Nothing new has come. There's no new thing, right? There's no new form of government. That's it. It's like that's as good as it's going to get. You just have to deal with them as they come. You're going to have people get into power. They abuse their power. They get overthrown. Something new happens. They claim to be your friend. Okay, great. This person's good. Next thing you know, they're into power. Nope. Next. I look at Argentina. I don't know what year it was, but it was after 2001 when they had their big collapse. The people were out there banging pots and pans around, basically overthrew the president at the time. And a new guy comes in and says, oh, you know, this guy came basically out of the crowd of people protesting, so to speak, and next thing you know, the people are standing behind him. He's going to be the new leader. He's our guy. Matter of fact, I think he might be the one that I was talking about, that they overthrew by banging pots and pans till they finally got a helicopter came and picked him up. He's never been seen again. That may have been him. So the prior guy was overthrown, so basically voted out. Something like that anyways. It's been a long time since I read this story. And this is true, by the way. I'm not making like a story. This is really true. So they have a guy, basic citizen. Yeah, we're tired of all this crap. We're tired of the corruption. We're tired of this big government. Okay. So this guy's going to lead us. This guy is going to lead us. He's one of us, basically. Look at him. He came right out of the crowd. And then the bankers got to him. The IMF got to him. World Bank got to him. Started making real bad decisions in a hurry. Didn't do anything he said he was going to do for the people and the country. And really loved that feeling of power and what comes with it. Lots of money, of course. So they had to overthrow him. Now we've got this new lady. What's her last name? Fernandina something. Fernandina something. You know, the old saying, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Female, doesn't matter, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So nothing has changed. So I still think that even though, prime example, Argentina, you know, democracy, they've tried 3 rulers in recent times. 3 leaders, right? 3 El Presidentes. And they keep getting the same results. This is why you can see why the cycles change. Okay, they're going to have to come to the conclusion that, you know what? Democracy isn't going to work. We can't vote them in, we can't vote them out. Nothing seems to change. It's like this never-ending supply of bad politicians. You think one's good, they promise you the world. This guy says everything, that he recognizes all the problems of our country. We gotta vote for this guy. And then you vote him in, not one thing changes. Okay, must have, how did I miss that? How did we do that as a people? How the hell did we... Well, we made mistakes. We're only human, we made mistakes. There's a lady now. Vote for her. We've never had a woman in here, in office. Let's vote her. She said the same things the last guy said, but maybe she means it. Vote her in, nothing changes. So what happens, I think ultimately, like those cycles I just read you from Aristotle and friends back in the day, is that the people will violently overthrow those in power. There will be no voting that comes when this happens. It is now all of a sudden, we know this guy's the real deal. We're not voting him in, we're putting him in power. Now he's going to run the show, he or she. And they run the show, and hey, this actually worked. But wait a minute, we're not back to like a dictatorship, you know, king and queen days. He's like the sole person with power. But he is a very just individual. He's very caring. He cares about the people. He cares about the country. Right? So let's leave him in. He's doing it, as long as he's doing it right, then fine. So then the people get accustomed to this guy living his whole rest of his life, 40, 50, 60 years, however old he was at the time. You know, lives, let's just say 40, 50 years later, they've had this ruling person the whole time, but the country's been relatively well. So now the whole citizenry is used to seeing that, used to experiencing that, and that's what they want. Well, he's not just going to give it up to some schmuck that can overthrow the country again and take it in a bad place again. No, no, no. You got to trust me, my family. These are my family. Came from my DNA. My children will rule. And, of course, maybe they'll do the old thing that old kings and queens do. And, oh, well, I've got a son. He's the prince. Now he's the king. And then the queen, he'll find a woman and she'll be queen. But those kids who are now ruling, let's say, may not have been around long enough to understand and experience what was there before, which prompted their father to become the king in the first place. They, on the other hand, hey, this is just a position of power. This is kind of cool. So they start to abuse a few things. And then a few things become more things. And then people don't like them anymore. And the next thing you know, that form of government is overthrown. And something new comes. We can't have you single parties ruling us. We need other people who are elected that can also make rules, not just one person. So then you have your oligarchy, etc. End of discussion. So you can see where these, the point is, everything's a cycle. And we do need something new. And the question is what? That's really the question. And the interesting thing, which is was mentioned in that little article, is where it talks about even in a democracy that's actually working right, basically, you still have the rule by many, which again you can see right in our elections. And I know they're rigged. Trust me, they are rigged, because you can't possibly have these kind of results, and the results being 51-49, 52-48%. God, they just edged us out. The whole country split right down the middle, just a few, 1%, 51-49, damn. That additional 1%, or technically 2%, from 49 to 51. That's the rule. Whatever they decide for the rest of us, we just have to deal with. That's essentially what you're doing when we vote. Even though you're voting for a certain person to make the decisions for us, that person won by basically normally those types of numbers, 51-49. And the president, who is the supreme lawmaker of all, really, because he can just write executive orders if he can't get laws to pass in Congress nowadays, is the one that only really matters with that 49-51 result. But even if it didn't, and we had an absolute true democracy where every major decision in this country that affects everybody never went through Congress, never went through the president, right? It went straight through the people. We all went and voted on what we think of some new change, law, whatever. And somehow, again, you see those numbers, 52-48, 51-49, damn. And somehow they're voting in favor of like more taxation. Huh. More cost to the people, keep winning. Guess we'll just have to deal with it. The majority rules. So if the majority wants it, whatever happens to individualism, right? Why are the many allowed to make rules for the least? Doesn't really seem right, does it? Right? We teach our kids, we grow up as kids, and we're taught, supposedly, share with your friends, share with your brother and sister, don't hog stuff, right? Make sure it doesn't hurt other people's feelings, until you become an adult and you start really experiencing this democracy. Then, nobody said life was fair. Quit crying, no one said life was fair. You don't like paying that new healthcare bill? You'll get fined. No one said it was fine. No one said life was fair. Whoever told you that? Well, I thought my parents taught me that when I was young. That way I would be fair to other people and they'd be fair to me. Treat others how you want to be treated. So if we all were brought up by parents and all of our parents basically tell us the same thing as we're growing up, why do they all change their minds when we become adults? And now it's not, let's not be fair, it's the majority rules and sorry about your luck. And then you start to see behind the curtain and realize that all those changes that you thought were the majority rules actually wasn't the majority. It was a select few people behind closed doors, hidden out of sight, that now have the ability to rig the electronic voting machines to make you perceive that the majority has ruled and it sucks for you, and who in the hell would rule for new taxes, and who in the hell would rule for this kind of change? But I guess the majority did, because that's what the voting machines say. So I guess majority rules and I just have to deal with it, right? Wrong. The elite rule, and it only benefits them, which is why Wall Street banks are still showing record profits even right now, and compared to last year, incredibly higher. So as the rest of the economy is still sucking, and in worse in many cases, the Wall Street bankers, the ones who I'm talking about set the rules, are making profits hand over fist even today, even to this very day. Take care.